relationships we engage in simply by tapping away on a computer keyboard, all of the internet shopping that we do. How much do we know about the social relations of production that we engage in when we're simply sitting in our own houses, tapping away on a computer keyboard and engaging economically at such a depersonalised and anonymous level as that? So much of our everyday economic experiences take place in deeply anonymised fora. These are markets which have no obvious physical dimensions. And the absence of these physical spaces means that it's necessary, I think, for us to find innovative ways to enter markets if we want to do so as ethical as well as purely economic agents. If we're interested in the ethics of the economy, then we're really going to be interested in trends such as fair trade. Because they also provide us with that sort of innovative way to enter markets in order to think about the social relationships that we're engaged in there as well. So fair trade, to my mind, is de-anonymising in two senses. And I sing the praises of fair trade specifically because of these de-anonymising properties. Firstly, it helps us to discover things about the underlying social relations of production, the narratives that attend the consumption, the purchase of fair trade products, tells us something very important about the underlying social relations of production. Secondly, it also helps us to discover the ethical possibilities that are immanent within ourselves. It allows us to think in more connected terms to other people within the world economy. It allows us to plug into other people's livelihood struggles. And it allows us to plug into other people's livelihood struggles because it makes it fairly clear to us that we are implicated as consumers in the way that so many faraway producers try to take care of themselves and to feed themselves and their families. So even if we're only inadvertently or unconsciously or accidentally implicated in other people's livelihood struggles, one of the great things about fair trade is that it tells us that we are necessarily implicated in those struggles. And so it allows us to think of ourselves in those connected terms. It allows us to reimagine markets as ethical spaces as well as economic spaces. It allows us to get around the price fetishism, which in most of our everyday economic lives persuades us to think of products simply in terms of the price label that's attached to them. It allows us to generate new knowledge, not only of other people, but also of ourselves. Okay, so a lot of the knowledge that's generated through fair trade relationships is vicariously based. It's not as though we are in the process, when engaging with fair trade, of actively bringing the producers physically into our lives, but we can bring them emotionally into our lives, and we can also bring them ethically into our lives. We can begin to connect ourselves with them vicariously through the stories that the fair trade products themselves tell about the types of conditions that these people experience. So the narrative strategies of fair trade and the fair trade products and the fair trade packaging, I think, are really, really important. It doesn't presume that we need direct first-hand interpersonal relationships between consumer and producer. It just tells us that we need to be aware of the narratives that attend the production of these particular products. And a vicarious relationship and vicarious knowledge of this nature is still enough to elicit new forms of self-awareness on behalf of consumers. And as such, I think it allows us to think differently about ourselves as well as about the world that we live in.